Hey everyone, welcome to the new moon video. This is the report for the October 16th new moon at 24 degrees Libra. I am your astrologer, D Real. This is Catalyst Energies. Thanks for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. So there are some things to talk about, and I've done many takes of this video. So I am hoping to make this concise and a really well-formed thesis on what this new moon is really going to be about. We will talk about the actual new moon itself. You can see it in the chart right in front of you, symbolism that's attached to it. The full moon that will follow in 2 weeks, that is on Halloween on the 31st, that will be conjunct Uranus. So be prepared, my friends. We are about to embark on some really dark territory, some very disruptive and revolutionary change oriented energy. And this new moon is such a beautiful offering that I hope we are ready to hold what it is that we intend to grow with this new moon. This lunar cycle will also contain the November 3rd presidential election in the United States. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that because it's very connected to this new moon and also to the last to the place where Mars went, not Mars, I keep talking about Mars because Mars, as you can see, is still opposite the sun. It's moving away now, but that has been such, oh boy, it's been such an incredibly confrontational energy that has been explosive and disruptive and incredibly charged. So that's dissipating, but it's still kind of holding strong. So Mercury's retrograde, and with the new moon, we're 24 degrees Libra, and there are some fixed stars, some star seed stuff going on with this new moon. I've been talking about it actually as an Arcturian portal. So I'm going to get a little bit more into that, talk about the full moon, and go a little bit into the election. I think I'm going to cover that a lot more in the full moon report. And we'll get real specific about the weekend because it's going to our opportunity to utilize and to start really for the intention, the seed that we set with the new moon, for that to start really getting potent, right? That's going to happen right away with this weekend. So we'll talk about the weekend pretty specifically. And yeah, by the end of this, hopefully we will have an idea of where to put our intention for this new moon. We are about to, like I said, embark on some really strange, really deep, really insightful, but dark territory. And this new moon, like I said, is this beautiful offering that is going to provide a whole new way that maybe we have never had before, that isn't even fully manifested yet, that is going to allow us to stabilize internally with this duality that is inevitable in our universe and is a big part of what we are experiencing now in this evolutionary process we call life. So Arcturus and Spica, fixed star Spica, both of these stars, this is where the new moon is. These are very bright stars in the sky. They are in fact aligned longitudinally. Spica is in one position in the constellation of Virgo, but in terms of an equally partitioned zodiac, it is at 24 degrees, 23 to 24 degrees Libra. Arcturus is in the same basic location, just in a different constellation. It's just at a higher latitude in the sky. So that is in the Boots or Bootsy constellation, and those symbols and those constellations have imagery that connects very well to also to the starseed race, the traits that go along with it. And so this is really a very powerful moment, and it's something that I've talked about already in terms of how to conceptualize it. It feels like it's a big zip file that's going to come in. And if we have made space on our hard drive through the last lunar cycle that started with Virgo, 25 degrees Virgo here, getting ourselves up to speed, really discovering what we're made of, what kind of character we have, and what we need to do to get to the place where we step into our destiny, right? We step into our destined role in this life. And there's a lot of things that we have to organize and put in their proper place internally and otherwise in order to really do that. So the Virgo theme is still strong with this new moon because Spica, fixed star Spica, is in the constellation of Virgo, the virgin, the chaste, pure feminine, right? The sacred feminine that walks away from the outside world in order to discipline herself and to commit herself fully to the service of the community as a whole. So the Vestal Virgins in Greek mythology, Roman mythology, they lived as an order, then they curated and cared for the eternal flame, right? The central creative force that unifies the community in a spiritual way. So what she has in her hand is a grain, a stalk of wheat, and Spica is at the head. It is the actual bounty itself, the fruit of the grain that we actually consume is the bounty that is being offered with Spica right now. And when we are really engaging with the Virgo archetype, the hermit archetype, the virgin archetype, we're really, everything we're doing is in service to the community, to bring something of sustenance to the community. At the Virgo time of year in the Northern Hemisphere is when the fruit is, finishing its growth, which is what holds the seed to the next cycle. And Libra time is the measuring out of the harvest. And so there's still this connection here, this bounty, everything that we've been doing coming to kind of fruition as part of this new moon, as part of setting the intention for the next cycle. And the next cycle, we also have conjunct Arcturus, the sun and the moon. So we have Spica and Arcturus in the same basic location in the sky in this 24 degrees Libra. And the Sabian symbol for 24 degrees Libra is a butterfly with a third wing. It is the development of extraordinary or extra abilities, an appendage of in some way. 3 is a very stable number. So it's almost like that third wing is like the third leg of a tripod. Like it's a stabilizing point, and it's something that is almost a mutation. Now with Arcturus as part of the Boots constellation, Boots or Bootsy is the driver of the oxen. So there is this guardianship, this leadership, the shepherding of the herd, and there is a sense of achieving justice through power with Arcturus, and there's a very enterprising spirit, right? It is the ability to apply what we've learned and apply this power and this mastery. You're thinking about the shepherd, the driver, the cowboy, whatever, however you want to identify it. There's a lot of pride. But there's also a commanding presence, because you need that in order to drive the herd to where you want to go. And the reason you're doing that is because the herd represents the collective resource of the community, right? They herded animals so they could gather them for resources, right? Like sheep for wool and goats for milk, and I'm sure for butchering meat as well. It's all of those things. They represent the shared resource. So Arcturus is much more of this commanding masculine energy, and often has been characterized as the protector of Spica, because Spica is the grain, the fruit, right? The fruit, and represented by the grain and agriculture. And so they're often together. And so this new moon is just this beautifully wrapped gift and offering that is also being has the guardianship and the power and the enterprising spirit of Arcturus behind it. And the Arcturian aspect has been strong for a couple weeks now and will continue through the election, because this is where Mercury stations direct at Arcturus, right? And so Arcturian starseeds, really into sacred geometry, quantum physics, and mechanics. They are builders. They are very old, ancient race. They are much older than a lot of other races in the galaxy, apparently, and very higher dimensional. They just understand and know how to use the laws of nature to the point where they can build civilizations, societies, actual material reality, because they understand the laws of nature to the point where they can be they can not even manipulate it, just they've mastered it. And they are very shepherd like with Earth, and they're not in the fact that Earth is a resource for them, but just the the wisdom and the teaching and the instruction. They're very invested in what's happening here. So to have this new moon here and with Spica, it's so beautiful and it's so bountiful. And if we can set our intention around receiving this, which is this extraordinary, this extraordinary trait, something that we didn't have before, that allows us to grow faster than we would, to get somewhere faster than we would. That third wing on the butterfly just makes it that much more capable of getting where it needs to go. Maybe it makes it lopsided. That's something that you have to figure out along the way. But it's meant to be something positive that helps us and makes us more capable of applying the knowledge that we have gathered. And it's a lot about balancing the duality, having this third point of stabilization. Now, it's not all it will all come at once. So be mindful that it's going to be a big download. Okay. So it's important that you've cleared this space, because if you haven't, it's not going to install itself properly. There will be corruption in the file, and it might not even install. And this whole lunar cycle was about that, was about creating the vessel and intending for that. And now that Venus is in Virgo, we have literally moved into actual real-time material properties of that. So doing our energy work and being energetically hygienic, getting our practice into a routine, right, of meditation or prayer, or just addressing yourself and doing the inner work. And in the body too. That's the thing. We have to start making our bodies physically capable of handling higher frequencies of actual electromagnetic energy, because of where the solar system is moving through the photon belt in the galaxy. So it's important that we are getting our actual body up to speed, and that's what Venus is helping with. And you're going to see that she's really involved in this process as we move through the next couple of weeks. And it's because we really have to we have to feel it, and it has to feel satisfying and good, and it has to be harmonious with us and in the material world around us to be this vessel. Now, if we've done that and we have done the really hard work, we have gone through the opposition with the sun and the sun and Mars, and just all of the really, with Pluto going direct, Saturn going direct, all of this stuff, then when this comes in, it will be a big package. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to extract these files. So we can do it consciously, or it can be something that we kind of sink into a dark place, because the Scorpio theme is going to come up almost immediately after this new moon. So we are looking at the new moon in this chart. And here's the opposition right here. And where else? So Venus at 17 degrees Virgo, a volcanic eruption. It's a necessary part of the process of energy building under the surface. And if it's not being expressed appropriately, it will find its way out. And so don't be surprised too that there is going to be some sort of energetic eruption, a physical eruption. You can already feel it with the sun opposed Mars. There have been big blowouts with people, especially in relationships. And now it's going to come through each of us like in a really material, very real life way somehow, in something we value, but it's going to be a necessary release. So going into this new moon, just keep that in mind, and to be mindful that you're setting an intention for this to grow. Whatever you're receiving and there needs to be an eruption so that you can make space for that in your physical presence, in who you are energetically and materially and physically and mentally and emotionally. All of these things are part of the process. So when we move past the new moon, this is tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're going to move past the new moon. We're going to set those intentions around, what is that third wing going to really look like? How is that going to help us stabilize? And we will learn as we go along. We're not going to be able to see the whole file. We're going to get every piece along the way. And it's going to happen almost immediately, because on the 17th, the moon will have moved into Scorpio. And this is something that look at this chart. It is just full of oppositions and squares. And so the challenge is going to present itself almost immediately on the 17th. So you see here that the moon is conjunct Mercury in Scorpio, which has been really revealing quite a bit. And a lot of secrets are coming to the light, and it is not something that necessarily we want to engage with. And is for some people has been quite painful and really destructive. So, but when the moon comes and makes her connection to Mercury, oh boy, in opposition to Uranus, right? This is where the sun will be at the full moon when the moon comes around is conjunct Uranus. So right now, this is a little bit of an emotional preview, also making that connection to Mercury. It's going to be something that we can access with the realm of the mind and is being communicated to us. And we're going to have a really strong feeling about it. We're going to have a very direct connection to it emotionally. There is a very large, I think that was a helicopter. Anyway, so right away, coming out the gate, we have this connection here with the moon is going to reflect back really strongly about some of the stuff that 10 degrees of Scorpio is a drowning man being rescued, and it is the idea of humanitarianism, but humanitarianism that is built out of a shared experience of humanity, right? Whereas Uranus is in 10 degrees Taurus, which is altruism for the sake of altruism, like finding the compassion and the acknowledgement of the value of life without having the strong human bond to really strengthen that humanitarianism and to save the you know what I mean? To save the drowning person. It's shows us how powerful Scorpio is right now in terms of the aspect of sharing, of commit, and not even commitment, but yes, commitment. That's seventh house in Libra, commitment for sure, but also what going forward with it, ride or die. Like you commit to the situation, now you walk down the path, like you commit to the journey inward. You have the courage to investigate and to go into the dark spaces and maybe feel around and try to intuit, but you can't really see very clearly. And the moon is not happy here. She is at her fall position in Scorpio because she wants containment and she wants to feel protected so that she can be her most vulnerable. This is vulnerability sinking to the depths, and this is why it's really important that we keep our heads in this time, and really just let it be a reflection here and try not to get too emotionally involved in what Mercury is bringing to the surface. Because we're going deeper emotionally, right? And Mercury is going retrograde. So it's still coming back over and digging all this stuff up, right? For us to see and to be communicated to us. But then the moon, which is really vulnerable, is going deeper into Scorpio. So, and it's going to be in opposition to this Taurus, Uranus and Taurus, which is, you know, the altruism that is really the essence of the collective awakening process. It's when we realize the value of everything just because, then we really truly wake up. And this has been, you know, retrograde. So it's not, you know, we're really resisting it and questioning if that's really the case or not. And you can see how it is really tearing us in a lot of different directions. And there is not a lot of ability to settle into any of this right now. And so it's going to be amplified, I think, with the moon coming to meet Mercury right on the 17th. And beyond that, the sun is squaring Saturn and is in an opposition to Black Moon Lilith, as well as Venus is now coming into her trine, her opposition, excuse me, with Neptune. So we're tracking the moon this weekend. It's important because this is where we are going to really be able to find a clear path in our, you know, last level of training with Venus in Virgo, that last decan, right? And so she's going to also be in trine to Jupiter in Capricorn as well. And so we are, really starting to get into the you know, the finals time in terms of what it is that our training and education, you know, towards the end of basketball camp or whatever, getting ready to go into the season, right? And so this is still just the weekend, right? After the new moon, we still have the sun in Libra. And so when we move on to the 18th, we're going to see here that Mercury is, you know, still retrograde in Scorpio. The sun is still in Libra. Now, Venus is in opposition to Neptune, right? 19 degrees, and is now in a trine to Jupiter, 19 to 20 degrees. And the moon, it's past the point. Let's go a couple hours behind because I want you to see where the moon really connects very strongly with let's see here, because it's going to be our intuition and our willingness to go very deep emotionally into the scary places that is really going to propel us into this last stretch. You know what I mean? Like if you've ever been in track or run a race or anything like that, when it's the home stretch, especially distance running, right? And that's definitely Virgo. There is no sprinting here. In distance running, you pace yourself, and as you get towards the end, then that is when you do the sprint, right? In that home stretch, and all the endorphins kick in, and it's really, you know, getting to the end of this. And not to say that Virgo is a race, but there is a definitive point to all of our training and education, is to show up in a collective sense, in a responsibility, in a committed situation, and find peace and balance and justice. That's what it's all about, is relationships. So this connection with the moon and Venus, and then Venus and Jupiter and Neptune, is all really comes down to this ability to really let the waters settle of our mind and our emotions enough to allow for a much deeper message to come through, as in channeling. And that's degree of where the moon. So we're talking about each of us connecting into this space, being like a parrot, and not in a mimicking way, but you are able to pull the message through. You are able to listen and then repeat the message by quieting the mind, and specifically letting the waters of our emotional state settle to the point where we can see further down under, you know, under the water, right? And bring the message back up and through us. Now, directly trying to Neptune and Pisces, this is incredible for getting a transmission about the spiritual message, right? The essence of the divine coming right through us. But we have to be able to do that. And then from there, the way that we find the balance point between Venus, which is really focused on the actual activities, like we have to train and we have to go to practice and we have to like get all of our forms together, and we need to know how to cooperate with each other. And this requires that we do this, that, and the other thing. This is very Virgo, right? Very meticulous and organized. And with Venus, it's about ourselves. It's in like our physical bodies, our material world, our relationships. We're trying to get it all in order and get it very dialed in. And Neptune and Pisces is like, just let it go, surrender to the flow, you'll get everything you need. Like, this is just, you know, just not absorb, but just dissolve yourself into the whole, and you will connect with all and everything that it is, and you will get the transmission of the divine through this process. Direct link. If we're able to settle ourselves emotionally enough to go this deep, and to be able to channel deeper wisdom from this place, not only are we going to direct link into this Neptune and Pisces, that is like direct master to disciple divine connection, it's also going to harmonize with what Venus is trying to do, which is to get ourselves dialed in materially, in a very material sensory way, in what we value around us and in our bodies. So it's going to be really important that we are able to stabilize ourselves enough to psychically and emotionally go this deep. And we kind of need to do this if we want to make the most of this time with the moon in Scorpio going into these realms. They're scary. They really challenge us. We are looking at the essence of darkness and light, of death and rebirth, right? The occult knowledge is part of Scorpio, and intimacy and betrayal, ooh, and obsession. That's all Scorpio stuff too. It's gonna see some dark and dirty shit. And if we can, this is part of stabilizing ourselves with the new moon. This is going to be the first chance this weekend to really, really utilize that gift, that offering of a stabilizing, extraordinary feature that's going to come in through this new moon. So this is just the weekend, okay? So expect that there will be a lot of really strong, emotional, dark things that are going to be brought to light that we're going to have to see. And then we're going to have a full feeling experience of what that is while Mercury continues to go retrograde, and the sun that is just so ridiculously positive and just wants peace and everybody to get along, squaring Saturn in Capricorn, which is just like, nope, this is what it is. It doesn't matter how, hopeful and how people pleasing you are, like it, or how much justice you want and how much that you want to express yourself through that. I'm still here. Saturn is just like, well, this is what it is. And there's going to be that, like, it could be really discouraging and also a lot of darkness. So be mindful of that, and if we can let that depth, if we can really handle ourselves and stabilize ourselves through that, we can really propel ourselves forward. Like, we can really stretch that container so much that we can hold a lot, because it's going to be more than just each of us. I think that especially the empaths and the light workers, we're going to have to really hold some space for people moving forward. So in the interim, right, this is the weekend, so let's just talk about how it's going to look coming into the full moon. I mean, we're going to have Venus trining all of Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, right? She's in boss mode at this point, right? She's really getting herself, this is like serious nobility, right? That she is like really mastered this. She is like Gandalf the White at this point. And so really, really stabilized when it comes to this Capricorn energy with all of these guys. There is a really strong connection between them, which is, I think, really, really good. I mean, she's going to square the nodes. And so that's, we're really being pulled in two directions with that. And I'll get into that later. And then the sun's going to come into Scorpio at this point. And there's going to be a first quarter square between Scorpio sun and look here, our Aquarius moon at 0 degrees. Wow. That is really going to test what are we in it for, right? The sun will be at 0 degrees Scorpio, which is like, yay, let's get on this bus and go explore together. And 0 degrees Aquarius, which is just like, I'm trying to build something that is going to last beyond me, right? The collectivization of society is Aquarius. They are naturally square because one is fixed water and one is fixed air. Oh, wow. So, and then we're going to come to the full moon, which is going to be on the 31st. And not only is the sun going to be moving into Scorpio by that time, we also are looking at Venus and Mercury entering Libra from different directions, right? And so Venus is at home in Libra. So she is now fully dialed in. She is in her prime in Libra. She is like, I know what is balanced. I know what is symmetrical. I know what feels good. I know where everything needs to be. And I will not feel satisfied until that is the case. So she's really going to help this process and anchor it into something real. And Mercury is now in Libra at the other end. It's like, and I have also mastered all of this knowledge and I can apply it for my next round going back into Scorpio. It's coming, but it's all retrograde, right? So we're going over old stuff and we're kind of, getting lip service in some ways. And you remember Mercury rules Gemini. So chances are we're getting the oppositional viewpoint of all of this stuff that we were engaging mentally before. So this is, and to be in Scorpio like this is really challenging because you're really messing with the emotions here, really deep emotions. So it's going to start really being focused on this Libra energy and the balance and justice, and fairness, and wanting everybody to be happy. And in the meantime, the Scorpio sun is now going to come into an opposition with the moon in Taurus next to Uranus. So, I mean, the moon loves to be in Taurus. This is actually where the moon is exalted because there is a sense of security, because Taurus is really just the earth itself. It is the soil. It really does hold the space that the moon can really sink into. They share that same dark, moist space that Taurus represents in terms of the actual earth itself, and the moon being the void, right? The divine feminine, the priestess, the high priestess. So when we get to the full moon, and I'll talk a lot more in depth as we get closer to the full moon, because there will be no doubt lots of things happening along the way that are really add to this story. But this degree of the sun, 9 degrees, 9 degrees is the dentist at work, right? And so we're going to really see really see what it is. So the dentist needs to, it's interesting, the dentist needs to, the only reason the dentist really exists is to provide some level of uh, repair work for the society. Provides the dentist because it's the same society that leads to the tooth decay in the first place, right? And so it's the acknowledgement at this point that for everything that we create, we have to also create a solution, as long as we are creating through a shared experience. And the moon is going to be next to Uranus, which has been this, aspect of, well, then it's going to get real dark, right? Because it's going to shift, it's shifting to a new degree, which has much more to do with faith in the cyclic renewal, of finding happiness in the darkest of times. And the moon is going to be there. So we're really going to see, we're really going to be tested and see what aspect of that has left us feeling complacent, and not being very engaged with solving problems that we have created. But it also will, it'll show us where we need to let go of, but it also will, I think, reinforce in some ways emotionally what it is that emotionally reinforce our ability to find happiness in the darkest of times and trust that there is a cycle of renewal. But there is a certain amount of too much complacency that I think can keep us from actually trying to solve problems, which is, I think, what this full moon is really going to highlight. Which is important because we're going to then soon after move to the election in just a matter of days, and the moon will be in Gemini. It will meet with the North Node at a very tumultuous degree. So we are each going to have this very personal, emotional experience, a very strong psychic link when it comes to the goal, right? The direction of our souls, our collective soul's evolution, where we are collectively going, what is driving us to evolve is this Gemini. And it is a tumultuous degree, right, of a very radical and explosive balancing of power. And with the moon meeting here, oh boy, it's just going to be so personalized. We're all going to feel it together, and it's going to be really, really magnified emotionally on the election. So regardless of what happens, this is what is in the chart. Mercury will station direct on Arcturus as well. And so this will be a time to really get our minds wrapped around that all of that energy that Arcturus brings in, the guardianship, and being masters of the physical realm, like the actual vibration and frequency that makes up sacred geometry, how quantum mechanics works, like realizing that it's within us to create the reality around us. And we will need to bring that back to our minds full speed ahead and forward, because I feel like that we will need that last piece of at least guidance or a signpost or like, hey, don't forget about this, because we will need that, because no matter what, we are going to be dealing with a lot of very sensitive, vulnerable issues already this time of year because of the sun in Scorpio, but everything that else is going on right now, especially with the moon meeting the North Node in Gemini, it's going to be explosive, and it's not going to be consolable or anything that can be rectified other than just accepting that it's going to be tumultuous and it's going to be very emotionally amplified no matter what happens. And with the sun just still opposing Uranus, it is just there's just so much potential explosion that could happen here. So it's important to be mindful of that. Now, there is still the rest of this whole lunar cycle that we'll go into in a different report, probably the report for the full moon, talk about the election a lot more in detail and the chart. But these are kind of the main points about it, especially with the moon, the sun opposing Uranus. There's a lot of active, awakening, alert, expressive energy, both with Uranus and the sun, and they're like pulling in different directions. So it's either way you look at it, it's going to be enlightening, and it's also going to just shake the world, right? And also just be so tumultuous. So we have to be ready to be internally stabilized. We have got to develop over time. And I think the full moon is going to be that one chance to fully see like what it is that, having faith in the cycle and being able to get through the darkest of times, but also to be mindful that we have to really deal with the problems of our shared connection. And we can't necessarily not engage with each other in a collective way if we want to actually solve our problems. So that's the new moon report for October 16th, 2020. Thank you for being here. If you like this content, please subscribe, give it a like, give it a share, whatever you want to do. Everything is in the description box below that gives you contact information and a way to book readings. And there are a lot of options on the website for Catalyst Energy, so you can check that out. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate you being here and me being here and having this space. And I'll see you guys on the next video.